Hello. I can't stop wanting to say good morning and then stopping myself. And then there's like a really weird pause after I say hello because I just want to say good morning. Ugh, stop that. Okay. Today we're going to fill in the little flower in the middle. Really excited for this. I'm going to do a little bit of explaining and then I'm going to show you. We're probably going to use 6 strands for the first part. Here's a big clue of what stitch we're going to do today. And then we're going to use 3 strands for the next part. Possibly 4, I'm not sure. And what we're going to do today is padded satin stitch. So what you're going to get is instead of a nice smooth stitch like these that are really close to the surface fabric of the hoop, you're going to get a humped up middle part. I really like these. They're really good for things that you want to be enunciated, like in a past pattern we did one with stones, and I just had it out earlier and I put it away, and I don't know why I put it away, because I had it out because I wanted to show you an example. But if you've done the stitch-alongs before, then you know exactly which one I'm talking about. Let's just see if I can pull it out really quickly. Not that one. Oh, not that one. I'm gonna give up here in a minute because I've probably put it somewhere else. This one. Okay. What it ends up looking like, sorry for that, like these ones down here. So they're kind of raised up off of your fabric a little bit. So they're not going to be smooth and sleek. So what we have to do first is add the padding, and then we'll add the satin stitch on top of it. So a word about the padding. For the padding, we're going to use a chain stitch. That's the one I like to use the best. Let's see if I can just do a little doodle on top of here. Let's turn it black. Okay, so I'm going to do my chain stitch like this. I'm going to use just the chain stitch, and we're going to do a loop around here in a circle. Okay, and then we're also going to do a loop like this. And you can either stop or continue going. It depends on how much space we'll have. And there shouldn't be much space in the middle here. So we should be good with doing an outline of the middle and then an outline kind of inside this white part, not on the line, just inside. And then we'll fill in our satin stitch over top. Now over top, this is a different thing as well. Now before we did our satin stitch with parallel lines, okay? Just parallel lines, which means that if we did that with this kind of shape, what would end up happening is we would run off. Do you see? Like that. So that will not do for the middle of this shape. So what we're going to do instead is just like the very tips of the fishbone stitch, the second way that I showed how to do on Monday or Tuesday. Okay, we're going to do that, but we're going to do that around the circle. Okay, and this is where it can be a little bit tricky. So again, I like to start in the middle. All right. And this is where you're going to have some stitches that go 3/4 of the way and some stitches that go all the way down. And instead of going down the same hole, you're just going to go right next to it. And you're only going to know which ones are going to go all the way from this outline to this outline when you're stitching them. So that's why I say this one's a little bit tricky with this shape, because sometimes you'll have some that they go right next to each other. So say we just started putting them together and all of a sudden you get to this point and you go, hold on, you know, if we pretend they all meet in the middle, I've got a problem here because this one here has to go like on this extreme angle and then I'm left with this space. So what I like to do is start in the very middle and do kind of one on each side. That's 3/4, then one all the way down, maybe another 3/4 one all the way down, and then have a little look and see where we're at. Okay, so hopefully this will make sense as I'm doing it. But it's another one of those where you kind of have to do it yourself, and that way you'll see where you need to add the extra little stitches. So let's zoom it in real nice. I'm going to use 6 strands for the padded part. Also for the padded part, some people like to use different stitches. They don't like to use the chain stitch. I like to use the chain stitch because it gives it a really nice plump middle. And sometimes when you use other stitches, they're not as raised up, so you don't get really a big padded effect. The other thing with the padded satin stitch is you want your underneath stitches to go the opposite way of the way that you want your satin stitch to go. So we want our satin stitch to essentially be like this. So if you imagine there's a dot in the middle and all these stitches are going to go into that dot like that. This is where stitch direction makes such a big difference. Okay, so just pretend that those are going to be our satin stitches on the top. Underneath, we don't want our stitches to go the same direction, and that's why I'm doing the chain stitch in a circle around here, and then I'll add kind of maybe 1 or 2 in this kind of shape around. Okay? And the reason you want them to go the opposite way, so they're like this, is because sometimes if you have them the same direction, your top stitches can actually kind of sink down into and in between the stitches that you've done. So if we did like a detached chain stitch and just made them filled up the whole space, then your stitches on top can sometimes fall in between like this. So you actually see the underneath stitches, whereas if they're like this, there's no kind of ridges or like kind of valleys or ditches where your threads can fall into. So let's get started. The first part, again, is the chain stitch like we've already done. And I'm using all 6 strands for this one because, like I said, I want it to be like quite raised up and not like really nice and flat and blended in to the fabric. So the other thing with this is that you really don't have to make these like nice and neat and tidy. You can just kind of blitz them out, you know? It's a great way to practice your stitches though, because they're going to be covered up. So if you make a mistake, it doesn't really matter. So there we go. That's the intro. Padded satin stitch. For the padding, we've got chain stitch and 6 strands. And then for the satin stitch over top of it, I'm undecided. Maybe 4, maybe 3. We'll see. Actually, this would probably look really cute with just chain stitch all the way around, but we're not doing that. Okay, and then we're going to end it. Like that. So we've got our nice little circle. That's really cute though, doesn't it? That's really cute. And then I'm just going to do, like I said, just a little, maybe three chain stitches in each little hump here. Let's see how it goes. Because I want some space still to be able to, it might only be 2, you know. I still want some space to be able to see where my stitches are going to go. So you don't want it to be too crowded or too close, you know? Yeah, we'll do, I probably could have just kept going there, hey? Instead of stopping it. So I'm just, oh, What are you having back here, little party? No, thank you. That is not allowed. Excuse me. So glad I can join in today. This is going to be a fancy flower. Yeah. We're trying to do things a little, like, not the same as we've always done them. So I don't really like to do the same flower like a million times. Although I admit sometimes I will use the same one in, you know, in different stitch-alongs because it's familiar and you guys get to practice that way. I have not a clue what's happening right now. Somehow there's like a weird knot on the back of here, but I'm not really sure how that happened. Like I've gone through something or something. Like, what is this? Do you see? They're like all connected. We're all connected. Okay. I can just cut it, but I don't know where I can cut this. That, huh. Very interesting. But that's getting snipped off. Not a clue what's happened there. Sorry. We're just going to undo this little guy. Or not. What's going on? What is happening? I can't even put it like down. Let's just thread that through and pull it under. So at least it's on the back somewhere. And we will start again. I'm not glad this happens to you too, but it happened to me yesterday and I fought for so long before just cutting it off. Do you know what? Sometimes it's worth the hassle to really undo it, but other times it's just like, no, don't even. Just save yourself the headache, snip it off, start again. We move. We just move along. Do not even tell me that this has happened again. What is this? I've gone through my knot. Oh my God. You are joking me with this evening. Listen here, ma'am. I just want to do this. I just want to stitch this thing, okay? So I'm not really sure what is happening. Somehow this is my knot and it's come out the top. So how did that happen? And like, I cannot pull it out. What? Oh my goodness. All right. Well, listen. Determined. Did I pick a bad color? Like maybe this is not a name brand color or something. I just picked one out of the box. Rethread the needle. We will try again. We will try again. Lord help me. Oh, I'm like nervous. I'm like sweating. Okay, all right. Let's move it back in the center so we can all see. Say some prayers. probably because I'm trying to do it quickly so I can show you the next part. And life is like, can we just slow down a little bit? Because we do not need to be going that fast. I am going to put that down now because it looked a little bit smaller. This petal looks a little bit smaller. So yeah, it happens to everybody. It's not just you. It's not just you saying, oh, I suck at this. It's not. It literally happens to everyone. And if you're sat smug at home saying, it doesn't happen to me, well, let me tell you, karma's going to come after you. Because that's what always happens. You think, oh, well, it hasn't happened to me in ages. And then you get like the biggest not ever, like on the top as well, not even on the bottom. And you're like, why did I say that? Why? Why did I say that? It's like those parents that like brag that their kids are sleeping through the night. And then all of a sudden, their kids wake up every hour and you're like, you shouldn't have said anything. You should have just kept your mouth shut. You should have just had a nice sleep and just been okay with it. But instead, you had to go brag. The kids know. Okay, we're almost done with this though. I'm tempted to use a different color for the satin stitch, but we'll see how this goes because I feel like these colors look really nice together. -3 and still doesn't sleep through the night. Oh, bless you. Oh. Yeah. Kids are wild. All right, this is a pretty short one. Let's see what 3 looks like. Okay, so the difference between 3 and 4 is that even though it's just 1 strand, 3 strands, you can get a couple more stitches in there if you get a little bit messy. 4 strands, it will add to the bulk a little bit. And you've kind of got to be a little bit more careful about where you put your strands or where you put your stitches, because even though it's only 1 more strand, it really does make a difference. So have a think about that when you're stitching. David did not take Miles out. He's upstairs and I can hear him crying. So I don't think it's going very well. Oh, poor guy. I think it's just this thread, you know, because this is just, what a nightmare. I picked a dud. Because that's just made a huge knot as well. Let's see if I have any anchor that's like a similar color. Like a similar kind of. There's like this red color. That might be quite nice. Oh. It's not the color I wanted, but it's the color that's going to happen. Okay, I'm changing my colors. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. I tend to like, with padded satin stitch, to use the same color. So then if you do see any of the stitches underneath, then it really doesn't make a big deal because they're the same color. Yeah. So let's do 4 strands. I'm just going to pull 2 out here. Ooh, we've got a little Colorado, 2 people from Colorado. Exciting. Just put the 2 strands over there for later. Sorry, guys. I really did not, one, I hate saying guys, so I don't know, I've said it twice now. Annoying. But I'm sorry that there's so many knots this evening. Not ideal. Not ideal. Do you get it? All right, so we're going to do our first one. I'm going to start here. I always start in the middle, so you'll see me do each one of these starting in the middle, and then I like to do left and right. You can also start in the middle and just carry on all the way through, but I find that if you do left and right, it just works a little bit better for me. So Again, if you just kind of pretend that each one of your stitches is going to go straight through the middle there, yeah? That will help you to decide if you need one or not. So, first one's going to be like this. And I'm going to do one on each side, 3/4 of the way, and it is going to pierce in the middle of this. But you won't even be able to tell, just like you cannot tell on the leaf. Now, the next one's going to go all the way down. So not the same hole, okay? You're going to go right next to it because we're trying to fill in the space, not make a point. So we're not trying to make a point with all the things coming out of it like that. We're trying to fill in the space like this around the circle. Okay? I hope you can see what's happening here because these colors are a little bit the same. So this one is next to it. And I'm going to do back on this side. A little 3/4 of the way. This one's going to get a 3/4 job too. So at the minute, I've pretty much done every other one 3/4 of the way and then full. I'm using 4 strands for this, yeah. Now I would use 3 strands if you feel like you would like a little bit of room, because the more strands that you use to fill up a space, you want it to fill the area, but you don't want it to be like, look like all you've done is just boom, 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 boom right on top. Do you know what I mean? Like when you have 3 strands or 2 strands, you can put more layers and it will still look relatively smooth. But with 4, 5, or 6 strands, you kind of have to be a little bit more particular where you put your stitches because it can look bulky really quickly. You don't necessarily want it to look bulky. Do you know what I mean? You want it to look like a smooth satin stitch. So like there's benefits of, okay, so we filled in this right here. I still like the previous color better, but do you see how it's like really humped up there? You can get the same effect by just using 6 strands and going over and over and over and over and over it. But this teaches you a new stitch. So it's good fun. Okay, so let's just turn it a little bit so we can see this in the middle. And we're going to do the exact same thing. So 1 down the middle. There we go. 1 down the middle like that. Oh, golly jeepers. Then we're going to do 1 on each side. Yeah, so you're saying if I struggled with the satin stitches before, 3 strands might be better. Yeah, definitely. Because it gives you a little, like, even though it's just 1 strand, I know people are like, oh, there's really not that much of a difference. Even though it's only one strand, you can still, there's still more space that you can kind of go over it, maybe in one area 2 times or 3 times, or add a little random stitch like, oh, I didn't actually cover it very well right here. You can put another stitch in without it being like really, really, really built up. Saying that, I suppose it depends on how built up you really want it to be, because it is the padded satin stitch. So it's meant to look padded. Now for this one, actually I can get away with only doing that 1 3/4 because I'm filling in the rest and that just happens to be straight down. So let's fill in the other side and see if we need to do any more 3/4 over there. 3/4 stitches. And in the middle, you're going to be able to choose what you would like to do. So if you want to just fill it with a satin stitch, or if you want to do French knots, we'll learn those. There's like a really cool fringe thing that we're going to learn. So you can decide if you would like to do what you want to do. I would probably try and keep it as neat as you can with your satin stitches in the circle here. And then you can actually decide what you want to do instead of having to do it a certain way because your stitches didn't turn out how you wanted them to. And I mean, specifically just this circle on the inside here. So pay special attention to the outside borders of the flower on the inside, and then also the circle here on the inside. Hi, Mel. I actually just saw your message as I was doing the live, like pushing live, like go live. And that's that she brought her headphones, but she didn't bring her hoop. Yeah, see, I much prefer the padded color for the whole flower, but that thread was not being nice to me, so we had to say goodbye. Don't even think about it. And you've missed it, Mel, because we had, I say we, me, like 4 knots in the first 5 minutes. So just skip that part. Just skip that part if you watch it from the beginning, because it's literally me trying to sort out knots over and over and over again. How annoying. And once you get the hang of like the 3/4, like where to put the 3/4 and where to not put them, then you can kind of do one half and the other half a little bit quicker, instead of having to do one stitch on one side, one stitch on the other side, one stitch on one side, one stitch on the other side. But it's going to be a nice little filled in area. Mel's laughing at me. Of course she is. Of course she is. This last one here. And then I start the middle of the next one. I love it. Thank you. It's super fun to try and like make different stitches, like use different stitches to make flowers, because you can have the same kind of shape but fill it in differently. It makes such a big difference. That's why you can totally tell when people are copying other people, because they tend to draw the flowers the same way, but then they also tend to fill them in the same way as well, and you kind of think, huh, I've seen that before. That's not original. So don't be afraid to like draw your own flowers or fill them in different ways. If you feel like, I don't really love this part of it, but I'm going to try this part with that part, you know, mix and match. You can make it your own really easily. You can. What stitch did you use to make the padding? It was the chain stitch. Oh, getting a bit crazy here. I always find if I don't turn the hoop around as I'm working on it, it gets a bit ropey. Like you can totally see here. I didn't make my 3/4 stitch long enough. So let's just put one more stitch on top of there. It might not be the right spot, but let's just see. Makes it a little bit better. No problem. I'm almost done. I'm definitely not going to have enough to do this. What I like to do though is, because I used 4 strands for this top satin stitch, save the other 2 strands, and then you can either fold it in half and use it to finish the rest if you only have a little bit to go, or you can use that 2 strands, and take another 6 strands out and make it the same length. And when you take the 4 strands out, you are left with 2 strands, and you can put the 2 strands and the 2 strands together to make 4 strands. Hope that made sense. I get excited and then I just talk too quickly. Oh, I think I missed a question. How many strands on the chain stitches? 6, yes. Thank you for answering. Okay, let's do the other half. And I only got this one more to go, and then we're finished with today. This is all we're doing today. It's a little bit, it's not a tricky stitch, but because it's 2 parts, it takes a little bit longer. So I tried to keep it short and sweet with some of these days, so that some days you have a little bit more to stitch and other days you just have a tiny little bit. Like one day we just did the stems, that's it, you know? 1, you get a little bit of a break, and 2, sometimes you just need that time to like have an easy kind of thing. Breathe a little bit, you know? I did have a question that someone sent to me, and I don't remember if it was in a message or if it was a comment on a different live or a different video, but it was their thread, because they kept doing the same repetitive thing over and over, their thread kept kind of separating and twisting up on itself. And if that happens to you, or if you find that your stitches aren't laying down as nicely as you want them to, what you need to do is, I'm going to zoom out for just a minute so don't get like, not whiplash, what's it, you know, like with motion sickness or anything. What you need to do is take your needle like this and let your thread dangle down. And oftentimes, especially if you're doing French knots, you'll see your needle will start to twist, and actually it's untwisting. So what is happening is that you're doing the same motion over and over and over, and what's going on with your thread is that it ends up twisting like this. And as it twists and twists and twists, your thread is becoming twisted or untwisted, depending on, you know, how it goes. And you can see as I keep twisting it, it starts to go like that. And then what happens is you put that through your fabric, and then all of these twists start making big knots on the back, or it will untwist, meaning like your threads will have become untwisted like mine have. Yeah. And then all of these strands here will start to separate. So we're not actually twisting our needle to make the strands, you know, be twisty again. We're just letting it dangle to get those twists out from the way that we do the stitch over and over and over and over. And that way it just becomes regular thread again. And then you can work on getting your stitches to just lay flat. The threads in your stitches to lay flat. So let's turn this around this way so that I can do it like that. I bet I'm going to run out. I bet I'm going to run out right at the very end. And then have to do the 2 strands. Gosh, how annoying. But yeah, we also want to get those stitches right up close to where we did our buttonhole stitches yesterday. So you don't want to have a space between your buttonhole stitches and the middle flower. So just keep that in mind as you're stitching, that you don't necessarily have to go into that space, you know, like make it outside the line or anything like that. But we want those stitches to kind of look like they're coming out of the flower, not like these are going down like that and then your flower is kind of down here. You know, you want them to be like right up against it. The amount of times I use my fingers as stitches. This could be a new stitch along bingo, actually. All the stupid things I say. I can put it on a little board. We should do that next time. And then if you get bingo, then you get like a free pattern or something. I can still see right here the underneath color. So I'm going to try and do one little stitch there if I have enough thread, because I can see them hanging on literally by a thread. all 4 of these. And then I'm going to do a knot and then use the 2 strands folded in half to finish in that little half. I almost won, guys. I didn't win, but I also didn't do any thread saver satin stitch. So that's probably my fault. If I would have done some thread savers, then I probably would have made it. But sometimes I find when I do a more complicated shape like this, it's easier to just do a regular satin stitch because the threads will lay really, really nice, but also you can kind of keep on track of where you need to go, and you can kind of think a little bit more about your actual stitches instead of like trying to save thread or like trying to whatever, you know? Do you know? Do you know what I mean? I can also show you the no knot start because I didn't show that the other day. So the no knot start, I've taken my 2 strands and folded them in half. This end has the 4 strands, 2 strands folded in half, and this end has a loop. Can you see it? A little loop like that. You probably can't because they're all twisted. There we go, a little loop. So what I'm going to do is put my 4 strands here, okay? And the loop is going to be at the end, like that. So the first stitch, let's put it up like here, get it in a nice place. Yeah, pull it through just a little bit, just a very little bit, okay? We want to keep the loop out like this. So now I'm going to pull it all the way through. And before I pull it all the way through, let me just move it so that you can see it a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to put the needle in the loop like this. And then pull that nice and tight. And now I have no knot to start my stitch. Yeah, because it's just the loop. See, there's no knot there. It's just the loop on top of my thread. Yeah? So that's the no knot start. I'm sure there's like a better name for it, but that's what I call it, the no knot start. And then you can just continue stitching like you normally would. There's just no knot there. So sometimes that's nice, especially if you need an even number, because you obviously cannot do that with something like three strands, because if you fold your 3 strands in half, you're going to get 6 strands. And then furthermore, you cannot use 1.5 strands. So you can't make 3, can ya? Okay, just a couple more here and we're all done. Yay. Okay, so this was the padded satin stitch. We did a chain stitch first. I showed the pattern of how to do it in the beginning, where to put your chain stitches. And then we did a 3/4 satin stitch, or a fanned satin stitch, some people call it, over top of that, so that it's nice and humped up off the fabric. Yeah, and I can really feel it and tell. I don't know if you can on the actual video or not. But it is quite humped up. For the chain stitch, we used 6 strands because we wanted to have it quite thick. And for the satin stitch, we used 4 strands. If you're not very good at satin stitch, or if you would like to have a little bit of leeway in where your stitches go, meaning you would like to go over and over and over a couple times, then I'd probably use 3 strands so that you have that extra little bit to play with. And that's what it looks like when it's done. So I hope that you love this. I cannot wait to see yours and which colors you choose. Obviously, you don't have to choose contrasting colors or different colors for the outside edge and the middle edge. I just chose 2 colors that I thought looked good together. But obviously, you can make the same color if you wanted to as well. So yeah, that's all from me today. Make sure you're tagging me at the Barmy Fox and using the hashtag the Barmy Fox SAL. Hi, George. If you decide to post in your stories, or if you post on your grid. If you go to the Barmy Fox SAL, the hashtag right now, there's tons of people who've posted on their grid, and you can see everyone's colors and stitches and colorways. If you have a couple minutes this evening or even this weekend sometime, I know it's only Thursday, but I'm going to say it because I remember now. Please, please, please go to the hashtag, give some people some likes or comment or encouragement. I'm telling you, it means so much, and it really keeps people going, especially when they're feeling like everyone else is doing better than me, or I'm really struggling on this part or something. It's really, really lovely to see as well. And I know a lot of people have made such great friends just from going to the hashtag and leaving some comments and chatting together. And now they've got little chats that they talk to each other about and little inside jokes and stuff. So yeah, it's really, really nice to see. So yeah, that's all for me, and I'll talk with you tomorrow. All right. Bye.